You guys are in luck because this morning I am going to show you where you can get the best views of downtown Beijing, and it's super easy. It's just a short hike up a small hill. So let's get going. So right here at Jingshan Park, you can see the entire Forbidden City from the top, and it is just an incredible view. You've probably seen it in pictures online or on the internet or on some travel brochure, but it just looks amazing. There are actually several pagodas on top of this small hill, which takes about 20 to 25 minutes tops to climb up to the top. And here at the very last pagoda, you can get the best view of the Forbidden City. So when you're over here, don't forget to come to the other side of the top of the hill because you can get a 360 view of the entire city. And it is just spectacular from every angle. The thing that's really cool is on a clear day like it is now, where it's just beautiful weather, you can actually see the mountains in the distance. And I think a lot of people forget about them because usually when the weather's not great, you can't see them at all. But today I can see all of the mountains around the city, and it's fantastic. I use that word a lot, I'm sorry if I do, but it just makes me feel so happy to be up here seeing this view in the morning. With 21 million residents, Beijing is China's capital and second largest city. This sprawling metropolis is one of the few places in the world I've lived in and called home over the years. It's a modern city full of history and culture. From the Great Wall to the skyscrapers in the Chaoyang district, it's easy to fall in love here. Well, I'm finally back in Beijing. It's only taken me 10 years to visit again. And I have to say it's so much fun, but I will say a lot has changed. Right now, I'm standing as close to Tiananmen and the Forbidden City as you can get because they've kind of closed off the area. I guess it was during COVID. And now you have to have some kind of ticket or be a Chinese citizen to actually get closer and view it and take a tour. Before that, this was just a place that you just came, an open square that I'd come to pretty often. So I'm a little sad I can't visit it, but there are some other amazing spots that are much more local and have a lot more meaning for me because those were neighborhoods that I went to frequently and places that I lived and worked. So I'm going to take you over to those spots today so you can check that out and maybe even get a more local perspective on what life in Beijing is really like. The old city streets here are one of my favorite parts of Beijing. They are these gray brick buildings that are very low to the ground. And you feel like you're just in this traditional neighborhood, what life was probably like, 100 years ago here in the city. So right over there is actually the back exit of the Forbidden City or the Palace Museum here in Beijing. And it is a place that I have visited probably a half dozen times. I've been through there over the years. And it's really something amazing and spectacular to see. I mean, so many tourists come here just for this. But sadly, this trip I won't actually be able to visit because new policies have come into place where it's really difficult to get an entrance ticket to go. This has all actually been happening for a while here. I left Beijing in 2013 and they were just starting with this new tech revolution, as I'll call it right now. I don't know what they would call it, but it was basically this idea that everything went onto your mobile device, all your payments, and they were moving away from this cashless society. When I came here the first time in 2005, there was nothing but cash. Actually, they never really adopted credit cards even, and they just skipped over them right to mobile payments. And there are two apps that you have to have if you come here to Beijing to do pretty much anything. One is called WeChat and the other called Alipay. Now you can download these onto your phone and then use those to pay for everything, which is convenient, but it is also a little bit of a struggle if you're like me and you don't really speak or understand Chinese very well. I'll be honest, it was never super easy living in China as a foreigner, but it's become a lot more difficult. Again, the only ways to really survive here, I feel like now, are you have to either have friends here that speak Chinese or you know, Chinese citizens, or you have to learn to speak Chinese yourself, which I haven't done, and that's really a shame because I really should have learned. I do want to emphasize in this video that I really do love China, and I have this special place for Beijing in my heart because I spent years living here and coming here. I want to give you guys some tools that might help you if you decide to come here, and things that you should know, but also things that you should have. I think you must have a smartphone to come here because that's how you pay for everything. And you must download two apps. You have to have Alipay and WeChat. It would also help you if you have some local friends. If you speak Chinese, that's really a huge benefit. I really wish I did. Luckily, my wife speaks it, so she's able to help me a lot. I couldn't do this trip without her right now. But I wouldn't tell anyone not to come. I would just say you really, really need to prepare. In fact, I would say that if you don't speak Chinese, if you don't have a smartphone, you really need to do everything through a tour guided group. And then you could do it because then someone is preparing everything for you. You'd have a local guide that would take you around and purchase all the tickets for you. But I think that's really the only way to visit right now. You can't be haphazard. The way I usually travel is just to go somewhere and then kind of just explore on my own, but I feel like that's not really as possible right now in China because of the way things are. Not everywhere requires a ticket or an online kind of reservation, because I definitely found neighborhoods that I could go to that I really love. Arguably the best way to get around Beijing is by subway, and it is really fantastic. Although I have to say it has changed a lot since my first trip here. When I came here in 2005, there were only 3 subway lines. There was one that went across, one that went around, and then one that made a big loop above. But now, if you look at the subway map, there's almost 20 lines here. That is just insane to me that they've built that much in just about 20 years. But it is truly a great way to get around the city, especially if it's your first time visiting. You just have to get a Metro card or use your cell phone with an app. While I'm here in Beijing, I thought it would be a really fun idea to come back to some of the places that I really remember, that I lived in, that I worked in. So I am here in Gongjufen, also, as they say in Beijing, Gongjufer. And this is where my school was, where I used to teach at. I came here every day. I even lived in the neighborhood for a short period toward the very end in 2013 before I left. So I'm going to go and see if I can find the school where I used to work. It should be a lot of fun. So it's funny, I really thought I was going to have a harder time finding this place because it's been a number of years, but actually I'm remembering all the shortcuts, all the alleyways I took to get over there really quickly. So I'm just following this road down here and it should take me right to the mall where I worked. So a memory that just came to mind was actually this bike park right behind me. There was a chain here. I tripped over it in the morning trying to get to school, or get to work rather. And it was my first time having to go to the hospital here in China. And it was a little bit terrifying. Luckily, there was a teacher that helped me out, but I actually had to get a tetanus shot because I cut my leg open on this metal fence that was here. I should probably be watching where I'm walking, honestly, a bit more than, don't want to repeat that. So I came over here and I was actually able to find the mall I worked in 10 years ago, and I'm actually really curious to go inside and see if the school is still open. So I'm gonna go in and take a walk around the mall and see what I can find. It's the most surreal feeling in the world to walk back into a place that you knew so well and see how it's changed, but also stayed the same. Costa Coffee became a Pete's, a Uniqlo store moved in, and the McDonald's bathroom that I used to wash up due to my shower not working, well, it's still there. But my school, well, it's another business now. So I guess the saying is true. You can never go home again. I have to say I was a little sad because I walked all over the mall and the school where I work definitely is not still in there. I'm sure the company itself was really big, so I'm sure they just moved it to a different location, probably somewhere less expensive maybe. But yeah, I really get a lot of feels in this neighborhood, and I lived in one of the apartments actually right across the street, which I'm going to go and take a look at right now. Well, this street that I'm on right here, right across from the mall where I used to work, is actually where I had my last apartment when I lived here. I lived in 3 different apartment complexes in 3 different areas of the city. One even further to the west called Yuchanlu, and another in the south called Taorenting. But I eventually moved here to Gongjufer toward the very end of my stay, right before I returned to the US in 2013. I'll tell you, something that I really miss after being here for even just a couple minutes is my motorbike that I had while I lived here, because it was great to get around the city without having to take the subway or the bus or another way of public transit. Even though it's fantastic, I just liked having that freedom to get out and go where I wanted. But I've noticed something else too. There are no motor gas-powered bikes anymore. Everything is electric, which is one of the big changes I've noticed since I've been back in Beijing this time. So I can't believe I actually found it, but that building right behind me across the street is where I lived with 3 roommates back in 2012 and 2013. There were restaurants across the street where we could go and grab some food, but they're all gone now because across the street now, this new monstrosity of an apartment complex, that wasn't there before. That was actually like a group of older buildings with little restaurants at the bottom, like mom and pop shops that sold incredible food. Speaking of which, that's the one thing I have noticed since I've been back in Beijing this time, is that there's no street food culture anymore. That was such a big part of living in China, and it's totally gone. I'm not sure exactly what happened after 2013, after I left, but apparently they got rid of all the street food vendors, and it was something to do with the environment, which is a good thing because you're trying to protect everybody. But at the same time, it really feels like something's missing, that smell of street food, delicious chuar, you know, which is just meat on a stick, basically. I do miss it. I just arrived here in this lake district where the main lake is called Houhai, and it is just fantastic because it's such a beautiful lake and a beautiful area with lots of bars and restaurants and cafes that you can just come here with your friends and relax. I'll say this, it's a little bit touristy, so there are a lot of people here just coming to check it out with tour groups, but it's still something that I would call very local because a lot of people that live here in the city enjoy this area too. Definitely when I lived here, this was a place that I would come. It was even the first place that I took my wife on our very first date. We met here in Beijing working at the same company, and we wanted to go out somewhere with a group of friends, and we came here. So something else fun to do here is actually to walk through these traditional alleyways called hutongs in China. And here at Houhai, there's actually quite a few of them. They're a bit touristy and they're not as used or traditional as other places in the city, but they are really cool to see. And the thing is too, they've been tearing these down for years, so there's very few original ones left. But definitely something culturally you should see while you're here in Beijing and in China. I'm just sitting down now, resting a little bit, because I decided to walk around the entire lake and I forgot how truly big it is. But it is so nice because the further you walk away from that metro stop, the less and less crowded it gets, the more peaceful and quiet, and you can just kind of relax and enjoy all of this beautiful scenery, as well as the hutongs and the small alleys and the old buildings that line the lake here. And it is such a local spot. I mean, there are a lot of tourists that come here, but if you really want to get a sense of Beijing, this is the perfect place to do it, away from the crowds, as long as you walk far enough. Like right now, I'm literally just watching some guys fishing, and hopefully they're catching something good. I just passed by this really nice lake house that sits along the lake here, and it was really cool to see right behind me there. And I have to say, it seems like everybody's enjoying themselves here. I saw people swimming, playing ping pong, exercising, just doing everything you would do in a park. So I just found the first Starbucks I ever visited here in Beijing back in 2006, and it's still here. That's pretty cool. Even though I don't even like their coffee, but I figured why not, you know, nostalgia. If you stay here long enough after dark, it really does become magical when everything gets lit up over here by the lake. 2 days was not nearly enough time in this city that I called home for 2 years. I'm already planning to return again soon. As always, stay safe, healthy, and happy, and I'll see you in the next one. Bye for now. Thanks for joining me today. Life's a journey meant to be shared. Remember to always travel with an open heart and an open mind. Enjoy the ride and keep your eyes on the horizon for the next adventure. I'll see you out there.